My name's Tyler Lerman. I work for BCN. I'm the sales director for the Northeast and Kentucky, as well as, TDM in general as a whole, and now Claris as a whole. So I look forward to working with you guys, and I'll just kind of give you guys a little introduction of what BCN is and kind of the brand that we try to follow and, see where we can work best together. So let's see here. So BCN, we were founded in 1994. We're 29 years old as a company. We are a solutions provider, mainly in the aggregation space, meaning we do a lot of different services, but we kind of aggregate it all into one billing platform, one place to go, one throat to hold if something goes wrong, one number to call. So we, try to make it a little bit easier for the customer in that regard. We're a debt-free, management-owned company, meaning we don't have any private equity. I think that's really good to make known, just because, with these opportunities that come at hand, sometimes when you have private equity as a carrier, they can be pushed to sell certain products or certain services. But us as a company, we really want to drive towards what's the best solution for the customer. We want to make sure that every time we're offering something up, the benefit is more directed towards the customer and not just directly, pushing towards the big sales goal of a certain service. Our headquarters is in Morristown, New Jersey, and our operations center is in Boca Raton, Florida, but we have offices all over the US and sales directors just about everywhere as well. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I'm out of our Portland, Maine office, but I do cover a wide variety of territories. So, we're able to travel everywhere, and it's if you ever need to get a hold of someone or need certain people, we typically have BCN representatives all over that can make events and stuff like that, if I'm not even able to, or for something along those lines. Our average team tenure is 10 years. I think the only reason that it really needs to be brought up is actually we're growing significantly as a company over the last 6 or 7 years, even through COVID. We've nearly doubled in size, and it's mainly just because as we've gotten, more opportunities and grown as a company, we really thought it was a great idea to really push and strive to improve our support teams. So we've added, I believe it's 20 people in the past 2 years or so, mainly on the support side. So sales engineers, partner support representatives, major account representatives, dedicated project managers, customer service team. That's where we're really trying to grow as a company, to really push kind of the BCN model of always making the customer happy and putting them first, as well as the partner. We have over 85 different underlying carriers. The number is actually probably a little low. We add carriers all the time and different suppliers all over the US, but amongst all of our services and solutions, we have probably a little bit closer to 100 different providers, meaning we can, just about anywhere in the US, we can hit it. And most of the time we have multiple different, suppliers, underlying providers that we could use for those locations. I'll kind of go into what we sell as a company more, but, like I had mentioned, it's a little bit of everything. There's traditional connectivity, UCaaS, cloud voice, SD-WAN and managed equipment, firewall, just about anything you can think of, POTS replacement. We have a little bit of our hand in everything. We do provide services to all 50 states. We do a little bit international as well. I would like to say if it's typically like a 90% US locations, 10% maybe international locations, or anywhere more on the US. So 90% and above, I think we're usually a good fit. Once you start going the opposite direction, where it's 50-50 or 90% international, maybe we're probably not the best fit. And I don't mean that as we can't provide service. I just mean like, as I mentioned, it's always about the best solution for the customer. There's probably other, carriers out there that could do a little bit better job of more of a traditional international location, straightforward project. So we're 100% focused on business customers, as well as we're also 100% focused on the channel partners. So we don't do anything direct. And it's good for us to keep it that way, because it avoids a conflict of interest. So, if there's an opportunity, you're never going to have to run into a customer or worry about a customer saying, hey, BCN reached out to me going, wanting to sell services here on the, on the direct side. Is this you? And finding out that we're actually working an opportunity on the other end. Anytime we're trying to sell to a customer through you guys, or a customer that you guys haven't brought to us, it's all actually just to improve you guys in our company. So if we upsell or add locations to a current customer, it's always attached to you guys. Whoever the selling partner is getting paid, they're always getting paid the same. There's no worries about that. We're 100% focused on just improving the partner relationship and the customer relationship. I'll kind of go into it in a little bit, but we have a project onboarding team and a major accounts team. These are for some of our bigger customers and bigger opportunities. It's essentially just an improvement from your typical day-to-day team. And as I had mentioned a couple of times, our overall commitment is just the customer experience and making sure that they're happy. Because if they're happy at the end of the day, the partner's usually happy. And if if the partner's happy, we get more opportunities. So that's really where we want to strive for. This is the day-to-day, or like I would say is your BCN team. There's me in the top middle, the sales director, and then on my left you have our VP of sales, Mike Ginsberg. He typically doesn't get involved too much, but if something gets escalated or pushed, or we need a little bit of a helping hand, he'll join in. My partner supports on the right, Frank Honorado. He's very good, detail-oriented project manager for the day-to-day activities. There's quoting and smaller orders and stuff like that. And then on the lower half of the screen, it's mainly our sales engineers, or like our support team, that would be brought into a lot of opportunities depending on what the services are. So we have our sales engineers, Greg Seal, who mainly specializes in SD-WAN or managed equipment, as well as Daniel Liu, who mainly specializes in our voice over IP services, as well as our POTS replacement services. And then there's our BCN major accounts advocate, May Kwiatkowski. She's by far what I would say is like our best service representative in terms of customer support on our major accounts team. She's the manager. She's been with BCN for a long time, and anytime that she gets involved in something, the customer is almost guaranteed to have a good relationship, or a good happy experience. I love bringing her into opportunities. Those are mainly for the opportunities that are they're a little bit larger, 20,000 and above. But when we get her involved, it's always a good experience. And then I won't go into everybody on this one, but this is, our executive leadership team. There's probably some faces on here that you've met before. Richard Boudria, our chairman and CEO, Mike Ginsberg, our VP of sales, Ryan Kelly, who's our vice president of sales and partner development. So there's a lot of faces on here that you've probably seen before. Jeannie Duca, who's our VP of brand and experience. A lot of great smiley faces on here. To go into just a little bit more details on the services we provide, but still more of an overview, we have our internet access or our connectivity. So we do a little bit of everything from your DIA fiber, your broadband connection, broadband fiber, our 4G, 5G wireless solutions, fixed wireless, MPLS, point-to-point circuits, just about everything. We do have SD-WAN that we've been pushing on recently. POTS replacement, that's been a big one recently. And what I mean by why that's in the connectivity is, our POTS over LTE devices. On our managed equipment side, we do firewall, routers, SD-WAN. We do monitoring, proactive network monitoring. Managed equipment naturally will come with network monitoring included, meaning if a circuit goes down, we can see it and open up a trouble ticket for the customer. If it's a weekend and they're not around or whatever, it's not waiting for them to get back in the office. It's proactively being worked on the moment that we see that it's down. We do a little bit of security. I won't say it's our big push, but it gets layered on top of everything. Our cloud services are, we have a NetSapiens platform, which if you're not familiar with it, but you want to get more introduced with our cloud services, I could set up a secondary call with our VoIP sales engineer, Daniel. But just to kind of go over that, we do use NetSapiens, which is one of the biggest growing platforms out there for VoIP right now. We sell traditional UCaaS, SIP PRI, SIP trunks, POTS replacement, just a little bit of everything in there. And then, even right down to the nitty gritty, there's always the pesky POTS lines that you can't seem to get rid of, that always seem to stick around for fax lines or elevator lines, stuff like that. We do sell that as well. That was, a big reason why a lot of people did know us probably 15 years ago. We've kind of steered away from it, but we're always there, and we're always able to sell it. Even as people are saying and worried that the pots are going to be gone, we're still extending contracts with AT&T, Verizon, Frontier every year. So it's sticking around. It doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon, so we still sell it. Some areas where BCN, where I feel like we're winning, and I say this was like when we should maybe be thinking of us, the hot spots, multi-location, DIA and broadband locations, the customer is looking for an overall savings. I mean, obviously every site a customer wants savings, but maybe the overall big picture savings. The more locations that get included into an opportunity, it's really the more opportunity for us to find the alternative carrier that the customer's not seeing, and give them the lower cost option, to show them an overall savings. And we do complimentary side-by-side audits for customers. So if they want to just send us all their bills, or a partner wants to send us all their bills, we run through it and we compare it like for like on the services they have today versus the services that we could provide if they move to BCN. And we do it apples to apples, or maybe we can even show upgrade options if the savings big enough. So stuff like that, those are the opportunities that I think really like help us shine. Anytime when it's looking for, or the customer is looking for a large support system or a good project implementation, consolidating everything onto one bill, that's when you should be thinking of BCN as an aggregator and a carrier to be looking to bring the customer towards. The smaller to mid-sized customers, like I call this like the today, what we're seeing, looking for multi-services, like those smaller customers. Those are typically the people that don't have a ton of knowledge on the equipment that they have today with their phones, and they're looking for upgrades. Maybe they're on some old PRI circuits, T1s that are through Windstream, and the cost is through the roof. They don't even know what's going on. That's where BCN really shines, because we can jump in, have our sales engineers work on a call with them, really hold their hands, because at the end of the day, a lot of these customers don't really know what they have unless they have an IT team. But when we're on those smaller customers, maybe the mom and pop shops, those are the ones where we can shine, because we can really dive in there with the customer and figure out exactly what they want. And it doesn't need to be super technical or, way over their head. I like always to jump on and say, hey, 4 years ago, I was flipping pancakes. I wasn't selling telecom. And here I am with you. Like at the same time, it's a process. You don't know anything until you learn it. So we walk through it with them, and we try to, make it easy for them to understand. For the bigger, the mid-size or the larger customers, it's all about the aggregation, the consolidation of billing, the product onboarding team or the major accounts program. We really try to push on that. The project onboarding is really just saying, hey, you have a dedicated project manager that's really only working on your guys' project. They're not in 5 different or 50 different opportunities. They're really just working on your guys'. So they're dedicated to you. You need them, you call them. If they're not answering the phone, man, that's a problem. We'll find you another one. That wouldn't happen. So it's really good to get them on the call and to really push for that. Our major accounts program, which essentially says that for the life of your account, you will have someone dedicated to your account that can answer all the billing questions, all the questions about what you guys have on site today at all of your locations. What's being billed? Can you go over this with us? They have monthly calls, stuff like that, just to keep the customer included. And, there's always opportunities where the customer is adding a new location, and sometimes they don't know, through change of ownership, they don't really, maybe the partner connection isn't as strong over the course of a few years, but they're reaching out to us, and we'll continue to grow and sell new locations potentially with them that the partner doesn't even know. And they still get paid on it just the same. And it's a nice, easy, simple way to get the customer in our hands, to work with us, to partner with us, and to keep you guys included, but also give you guys the freedom to, keep going out there for the next deal. Just a quick overview, like I said, for our cloud voice, we use NetSapiens as our platform. We do a little bit of UCaaS, SIP PRIs. Those are the big sellers as of recently. POTS replacement's been a big one. For SD-WAN, we have 5 different flavors: the Velo Cloud, Big Leaf Networks, Cato Networks, Cisco, Meraki, and Peplink. They're all for different sizes, different needs, different wants, different, like everything. Obviously with the Cato, you get a lot of security play in there. The Big Leaf is nice, quick, easy to work with. It's got all the, the bright, shiny toys. Then there's Peplink, which is a little bit, it's a lot cheaper for the smaller customers. It still gives you the active aggregate bandwidth, SD-WAN, but you don't get all the bright and shiny toys, the portal access, so it's not as expensive. The 5G unlimited wireless LTE solution, that's been our big play recently for the customers looking for a cheap secondary circuit that maybe don't want to go to fiber and have a broadband cable, and they're looking for something else. The 5G has been a big one. It's essentially the cost of a broadband circuit, and depending where you are, like the services could be upwards 100 by 10, 200 by 20, and eventually it'll probably be up to a gig. So it's there's a lot of good push there with the 5G recently, and not a lot of aggregators are selling the 5G through Verizon yet, and we are. So that's one thing to remember. There's a BCN customer portal. It's for the customer, but there's also a partner one as well. If you're an agent, it lets you view all the customers underneath your team. If you're a customer, it kind of just shows you everything that you have on site, the product IDs, stuff like that. So if the customer's hands-on and they want to see it all, it's always there. And then the customers that don't want it, at least we show that it's available. Essentially, this slide is just kind of reviewing everything that I said. Essentially, it's a 30-minute call. I just want to give you a quick overview. Any deep dives or details that you're looking for, we could always set up further calls individually, one-on-one. Maybe there's a few questions that I just don't know about yet, but we can definitely go over anything else more in depth when needed. And then, for everyone on the call, I imagine my email information will all be sent out to everybody in case you need to contact me. But here's my contact info just in case. But that's pretty much, I would say, like the quick but long BCN introduction, an overview.
All right, thank you, Tyler. We'll move on to questions here. The first one is, what is professional field service?
So if, let's say, for the one that we get it the most with is, you install a new POTS line or something like that, and the customer needs a cross connect. We do work with a third-party vendor, Tailwinds, Blue Sky, and then we have another one that's specific to our POTS over LTE device. But we have vendors that we work with that we could dispatch out. We do recommend the customer, if they have a local one that they like to use, we recommend that because it's usually a little bit easier, and maybe it's a little bit more cost efficient having a local one as opposed to like a US wide one. But we do offer the services, so it just keeps, if the customer doesn't want anything to do with it and wants kind of the carrier to handle it all, we do have the opportunity to handle that.
Next question is, how have you been able to be competitive with direct supplier pricing? Example, Comcast coax.
So I will say, if you're going one location head to head and it's me versus Comcast or me versus Spectrum, let's just be real. I mean, Spectrum and Comcast are probably going to beat us in those opportunities. It's really once you start getting more locations in there, and we start getting, we have bulk rates through certain carriers if it hits a certain amount of locations, stuff like that. I think really what you should be looking at BCN for is more of the multi-locations, or maybe there's DIA circuits for the single locations, but maybe if it's just broadband, I would say our strongest push is definitely for the multi-locations. I mean, there's always broadband fiber options too, AT&T, ABF, Verizon, FTTI, or Fios. There's a lot of options out there that the customers just don't know about. So we'll throw those ones in there, and they'll usually beat the coax one-on-one just about every time.
Next one is, were you really flipping pancakes 4 years ago? What did you learn there that's carried over into your current career?
So I worked at a veterans home for about 7 years before I came into telecom, which there was no connection, and I knew nothing about telecom. The biggest connection between what I was doing before and now, so I worked at a veterans home, and I spoke with a lot of the elderly patients, and I had a good connection with them. And a lot of our work and a lot of our sales for multi-location opportunities ends up being in the healthcare field. So a lot of times it's a good bonding story, with a customer to be like, hey, yes, my job is selling you telecom, but at the same time, like, I understand your jobs and duties. I understand that, when a patient wants something, they might not understand what waiting is. They might not understand that, using the Wi-Fi for Netflix and Hulu does anything towards the overall solution, like blowing through 4G usage and stuff like that. So I have the ability to understand the customer's point of view, I think, a lot of times, and it keeps me caring towards the customer. Even if it's not healthcare, like I genuinely end up caring about the customer more than I end up caring about the sale, which I think is a good, it's a good attribute to have in this world or channel.
What is the real differentiator between you and your competitors in the aggregator space?
So I think the easiest one is to say if we were against Granite. I think the biggest differentiators are support system. I mean, they're basically like the AT&T or Verizon of the aggregator space. And I say that in the sense of they're so big that they don't always necessarily have the ability to support the smaller customer or the mid-sized customer. So if you're a $300,000 a month customer and you go to Granite, you're really not getting treated with the same, care holding or support that you're going to get from a BCN if you're a $300,000 customer. And when I say that is we run into a lot of bigger customers that for us, like, we'll give them anything they want kind of deal. We can be flexible, but with Granite, it wasn't necessarily the biggest thing on their plate. So they didn't give it the care that it needed. When it's a SpectraTel, like, they don't, we're very similar. I think it still comes down to the support and the responsiveness. I try my best to always be responsive on anything that I work with. So maybe it's more of myself as opposed to BCN, but I'd like to think all of us, we try our best to be responsive on everything and make sure that we put in the little extra touch to make sure that the customer's happy. So I really think it's the support more than anything. We all have prices. Depending where you're at, I'm going to beat SpectraTel or SpectraTel will beat me. But I think at the end of the day, it's the service that matters more over time.
Does the client need to have a monthly minimum to receive the consolidated billing and the BCN support?
Okay, so on the major accounts program or the product onboarding, there's a $20,000 minimum to get to that level. And with the onboarding, that's not necessarily actually a dollar amount. It could be a service complexity. So if I have a customer that's going to be billing about 12,000, which is under the 20, obviously, a month, but they have SD-WAN, they have 100 hosted seats, they got SD-WAN, firewall, a bunch of internet circuits, 20 locations. We want our best hands on those projects. We want to make sure that it's getting handled properly. So we'll bring that to like our onboarding team sometimes. And not every deal that's 20,000 is necessarily needs a dedicated project manager. Sometimes those 10 gig circuits get pretty expensive and that stuff can rack up quick. But I could handle that on my own, or my support guy could handle that on his own. So we try to make sure that we put it where it's needed. And then the major accounts program, it's 20,000 or so. Some customers are bill a little bit more and it's not necessary. Some of them bill a little bit less and it's not, but we need to get them in there. But for everything else, no, it's not you could have 2 locations and it still makes sense to have an aggregator. You could have, or it could be, 15 locations. It could be 1 location. But maybe you have SD-WAN through us and an internet circuit, primary, secondary, and they don't want to reach out to 3 different carriers. So that the aggregator is still beneficial to the customer.
Okay, Tyler. Well, to end, we also had a statement saying that you and BCN are fantastic to work with. So we appreciate all your services and help and really appreciate your presentation today. Thank you so much.